It's your boy Justin Creeper, aka Young Mummy, the mother of the streets. Y'all know how we do it. Alright, now I'm gonna do a little thing. This is titled How to Argue Against the Doctrine of Hell. Okay, so if you've ever, you know, if you're a non-believer, a fellow non-believer, and you know, you've almost certainly noticed that it can be very frustrating trying to debate with Christians about this topic. Okay, and so I'm going to tell you what, in my estimation, is the best way to go about it. Okay, so if you've had found it frustrating, okay, listen up because this might help. Okay, so typically, more often, typically when people uh, argue, against the existence of this pagan Christian concept called hell, uh, they use a axiological argument. They're talking about morality. They're saying, uh, oh, torturing someone infinitely for finite transgressions. It's not. That's horrible. It's totally immoral. It's disgusting. And here's the thing. I agree. I agree that concept. It's quintessentially disgusting. I agree. But here's the thing. It's not a good argument because the Judeo-Christian God, the Christian conception of God is panentheistic. Okay, so he's everywhere in the creation, and he's infinitely transcendental, and that transcendental part is key because from philosophical and theological standpoint, he can't not be moral because he created morality. So if he wants to throw like 2-year-old kid in hell to suffer forever, then it's moral because he did it. So first and foremost, let's remember Christianity is an offshoot, a spin-off, if you will, of Judaism. Okay, Judaism came first. Okay, this is key. This is absolutely key. This is okay. So when there's discrepancies, and when it comes to Judaic theology and Christian theology, it's discrepancy city. Nothing agrees. We're looking. These two theologies couldn't. They're diametrically opposed. They couldn't be any more dissimilar. Okay. Now, since God is omniscient and omnipotent, he's not going to make any mistakes. Okay, that necessarily means that what came first is correct. When there's a discrepancy, okay, in the Tanakh and in the Christian Bible, the New Testament, and what isn't a discrepancy? Nothing, you know, nothing agrees, nothing comports. Um, you logically you would say that whatever came first is accurate. Okay, now listen. So in Judaism is holistic. Okay, Christianity is dualistic. So yeah, Christianity is dualistic, and so there's this eternal divide, right, of heaven, of good and evil. They have this dichotomous thing where there's good and there's evil, right? This is what we would call metaphysical dualism. Okay, and this was really popularized by Plato. Okay, but and a lot of the early church people were big fans of Plato. Okay, when it comes to Christian theology, you know, pagan, pagans. had a huge influence. Anyway, it doesn't matter. So, yeah, like I said, in Judaism, there's no such thing as hell. Okay, Christianity is Judaism. It's not dualistic. It doesn't feature any of those tropes, uh, or kind of typical principles of paganism, like metaphysical dualism and so on and so forth. Okay, so you could tell them that, and that would be fine. That would be acceptable uh, when it comes to refuting their argument. But if I would take it a step further, okay, just to really hammer home the the point, the fact, the indisputable fact that it really is irrational. Okay, so listen to this. This is important, I think. Okay, and I'm gonna explain it using an analogy. Okay, um, let's say there's three people. Okay, there's a girl who's 6 years old and she died of cancer, brain cancer. Okay, she didn't live long, so she never really got around to considering, Jesus and all these things. So she never uh, became a Christian. Okay, now there's a second guy, a second person. Let's say he's, I don't know, 60 years old, a 60-year-old man, very, he was a pretty good dude, and he died of whatever, heart attack. It doesn't matter how he died. And he, let's say he was a scientist. He was a very, rational minded individual, high IQ, okay, very intelligent guy, and he wasn't a Christian because it didn't make sense to him. He found it to be dubious, and he so he never became a Christian. Now we'll go on to the third person. The third person is Hitler, Adolf Hitler, uh, one of the most the horrible humans to ever exist, responsible for murdering 6 million, over 6 million people. Uh, but he was a Christian. Okay, he was baptized a Roman Catholic. He never renounced anything. He never renounced his. In Mein Kampf, he said he's doing the work of God by exterminating the Jews. The first treaty that the Nazis signed was with the Roman Catholic Church. There's no doubt. Some people say he was an atheist. No, no, no. He was a Roman Catholic. I have pictures of him with Catholic priests and all doing the Sig Heil. And anyway, it doesn't matter. So those are the three people. So in Christian theology, everyone is equally guilty because of something that they call original sin. Okay, which means you take on the sins of your the people that your ancestors. So because of Adam and Eve, because of the decision they made, you are inherently sinful. Okay, so the only way that you could not have to endure an eternity of suffering is by being a Christian. Okay, so according to Christian theology, the 6-year-old girl who died of brain cancer didn't hurt anyone, didn't hurt any, she goes to hell and suffers eternally because she was young, she never really considered religion, didn't you know so and she died, she suffered of brain cancer, it was horrible, and she died. Now she gets to be tortured forever. Okay, our second guy, the scientist, died at 60 years old. He was a pretty good guy. Again, didn't really hurt anyone, but in Christian theology, he didn't technically accept Yeshua, Jesus, as his savior. So he gets to be tortured eternally. Okay. Now Hitler, who, contrary to the other two, was an abjectly horrible person, one of the most evil human beings to ever exist. But he was a Christian, and we're assuming that he repented on his deathbed, so he gets to go to a paradise for eternity. So the 6-year-old girl who never hurt anyone, she's tortured forever. The scientist who helped humanity so much by figuring out all this stuff, and he gets to be tortured, and Hitler goes to heaven. Okay, so we're not talking about morality here. We're talking about logic. There's nothing logical about that. There's nothing remotely logical about that. And so now let me explain the Jewish system, because there actually is one. And like I said, when there's a discrepancy, when there's differences, we would rationally surmise that whatever comes first is the accurate one. And the Jewish system actually is logical. It actually makes sense, literally. So in Judaism, there is no such thing. Original sin doesn't exist. You don't inherit quote unquote sins from people you've never met. Okay, the concept of original sin is it's a Christian construct. It's revisionism. Okay, so in Judaism, everyone isn't considered equally evil or bad. You're you're judged based on your actions. So for Jews, there's 613 mitzvot. Okay, in other words, the sin is like a Christian word, but there's 613 potential sins. There's, whether we're talking about things that you have to do or things that you don't do. Okay, for non-Jews, there's only 7. It's the laws of Noah, the Noahidic laws. The standard is a lot lower for non-Jews. They're not expected to do nearly as much. Okay, they're only okay. So how good you are, how bad you are, it's not. It could be objectively quantified. Okay, so in the Jewish system, what happens is when you die, you go through a process called Gehenna. Okay, not to be confused with Gehenna, the city outside Jerusalem. Gehenna, and it can last a maximum of 12 months. Okay, and in this process, what you're effectively doing. Okay, there's a word, like there's tameh, which is to be clean, like physically clean, and there's tahor, which is to be spiritually clean. Okay, so the purpose of Gehenna, the whole purpose, is to cleanse yourself of all the sins that you did, so that you could be resurrected in the coming epoch, which is Olam Haba, which when the Mashiach comes, and basically heaven on earth is established. Okay, if you fail to become sufficiently cleansed after the 12 months, then you're destroyed. You don't resurrect. Okay, so you don't suffer eternally, but you don't get to be resurrected. You suffer for those 12 months. Okay, so now let's use our 3 people. Let's look at the original system before Christians corrupted it and just changed everything to make it pagan. So the girl, the 6 year old girl, she only lived 6 years. So she didn't commit, break the law. Halakha is, is the name for Jewish law. She didn't break that many mitzvah. So her uh, she probably would complete it in like a couple of weeks, and it wouldn't be that tough because in Gehenna, the toughness of it, the pain of it, how bad it is, how uh, tormenting it is directly proportionate to how good or bad you are, which makes sense. That's how it should be. If you are a really good person, then your Gehenna is going to be easy. It's not going to be that painful. If you are a horrible person, then your Gehenna is going to be horrible. It's going to be very painful. You're going to suffer a lot. So the 6 year old girl, her Gehenna process lasts 4 weeks, and it's not that tough. She's able to tahor, she's able to cleanse her soul, and she's good. She'll be resurrected in what they call Geula, okay, which is whatever, when the next epoch comes. Now, let's take our 60-year-old guy. His Gehenna is going to be tougher because he lived a lot longer. He sinned more because he lived a lot longer. But it wasn't that bad. It wasn't that bad. So let's say let's say he'll do it in like maybe 4 months. Takes it 4 months, a little bit more painful, okay? Suffered a little bit more, but it was worth it. But he managed to get cleansed, and he's good. He gets resurrected in Olam Haba. Okay, okay. Now our third, Hitler. We all know Hitler was a horrible person. So his Gehenna, it's bad. He's suffering a lot because he was a horrible person. Like I said, the degree of how bad your Gehenna is directly proportionate to how good or bad you were. So suffice to say, his Gehenna, it's going to be very tormenting. And he was so bad, after the 12 months, he won't even be able to cleanse himself sufficiently, so he's destroyed. He's not getting resurrected. Okay, so he suffers through the 12 months of Gehenna, and he still doesn't make it because he was such a horrible person. That makes a lot more sense. And remember, in the Christian version, the 6-year-old girl suffers eternally in hell. The 60-year-old scientist, it didn't really hurt anyone, suffers eternally. And Adolf Hitler goes to a paradise forever because he was a Christian, even though he murdered 6 million people. And is that logical? No. So the best way to go about it, forget about ethics. Go logic. Okay? Whatever came first is right. Right? When we're looking at discrepancies, it's not the revised version that's right. It's the original. But you know what? The original made more sense. The concept of Gehenna makes sense. The amount you suffer is proportionate to how good or bad you are. Okay, so anyway, that's it. Okay, and if you found that helpful, then great. But that's the way I would go about it. Don't use the axiological moralistic argument. Okay, use logic, and the Christian pagan dualistic concept of hell, it's not rational, it's not reasonable. It's this pagan stupidity. Okay, all right, it's your boy Justin Creever, aka Young Mummy of the What the fuck is my name? The mother of the streets, Young Mummy. Take care, guys. All right, peace.